real examples. How blockchain is shaping the public sector. Mr. Bruno Alves, Policy Advisor at European Commission Directorate General Communication Networks, Content and Technology, Belgium.
Good afternoon, everyone. So you will have noticed I'm the last thing between yourselves and lunch. So this is a very difficult position for me to be in, but I will try to make this presentation as short and as interesting as I possibly can. So as you know, I work for the European Commission. I work for a particular department within the European Commission called DG Connect, so that would be described as the technology department of the Commission. Within that department, we have a blockchain policy team. Sorry. Maybe if I move it like this. That's great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, so we're working in the technology department of the Commission. We have a dedicated blockchain team, and it's looking at blockchain policy beyond really the financial sector and the cryptocurrencies. We're working very closely across policy portfolios with other European Commission departments, working on education, on financial services, on other things, but we take a look at policy development from the technology perspective. So I guess what most of you are asking yourselves is, why would these people in Brussels from the European Commission get interested at all in blockchain, and what are they actually doing about it? And that's what I will try to explain you a little bit in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So I think one of the things that we've heard today already this morning, and that really goes to the point of why the European Commission is interested in this field, has to do with two things really, with trust, with the fact that this is a technology that can support trust in digital services, and particularly in digital public services. Trust is becoming an ever more appreciated asset. And so the European Commission, as the member state governments, are particularly sensitive to the potential of trust in digital services that this technology brings. And then there's the other aspect, which is the aspect of opportunity. And we think blockchain for Europe is really an opportunity because of several things, but not least because we have a strong agenda, as some of you know, of public sector modernization, digitization of public sector across Europe. And this technology is particularly relevant in that context, particularly when we're looking at decentralized distributed solutions between member states, the subnational level, the European Commission level. And secondly, because we actually think that this technology can create opportunities for European companies, for SMEs and companies operating in our market. So trust and potential are really the two things that led us, perhaps a couple of years ago, to start thinking about blockchain in a different way. What are we doing in this field? For us, the starting point has been to look at all the different things that were happening. And we've seen many examples already this morning. You see applications of blockchain technology in public services happening all over Europe, in some cases at the national level, in some cases at the subnational level. What we've realized, and I think a lot of the member states of the European Union realized, is that there was a great deal of fragmentation. There were lots of interesting initiatives that were happening. There were lots of proof of concepts, lots of pilots going on in different fields and in different places. But we were not really sharing this information, and we were not sharing the learnings of these experiences. And in our assessment, the fact that we were not doing meant that this fragmentation of initiatives also delayed the potential uptake of this technology by the public sector. So In other words, the fact that you have, that you're testing a new technology for a particular service on your own without taking into account what else has gone on or is actually going on in other member states, could actually increase the risk that you have associated to your project. It could mean that you're repeating work that someone else has already done, and so creates inefficiencies, and all of that undermines, in a way, potential public sector investment in this type of technology. And so that was really the starting point. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we're trying to deal with it, what EU initiatives we have running, and hopefully some of them may be of interest to you. Something we did, and this is not exclusive to the public sector, it's much broader than that. We've launched it in February this year, and it was a joint initiative by the European Commission and the European Parliament, was the European Blockchain Observatory and Forum. So this is a very broad group of stakeholders. It's an engagement platform with experts and stakeholders involved in blockchain. And what this observatory is working on is on identifying the main obstacles to the uptake of blockchain technology, in general terms, and trying to work together with experts, and these experts are not only European experts, so we have experts from all over the world, trying to work with them to prepare recommendations, policy recommendations and technical recommendations on how we can overcome those challenges and those obstacles and accelerate the uptake of blockchain technology across Europe. So amongst the many things they do, they have a kind of a map listing, I think at the moment, over 400 blockchain projects that range from public sector to healthcare to industry, and that are identified in the map. And then they have specific expert groups that are working on very specific themes or topics associated to blockchain technology. Some of them we've heard today, for example, data protection regulation compliance or blockchain compliance with GDPR, smart contracts, what's the legal framework. So they're working really on a thematic basis, trying to come up with suggestions and solutions. Again, the objective with this initiative was really to start creating these ecosystems in Europe that are there to accelerate the uptake of innovative technology. Okay, and again, it includes civil society organizations, it includes private sector, it includes public sector as well, academia, etc. Some of you already asked me today, you know, is it open, is it closed? The observatory the working groups have been established. There was a call for experts, there were applicants, and they were established and they are working. So only once they finish this work, we will launch a new call for experts to work again on specific themes. Having said that, the forum is a completely open platform, so anyone can join in. You can contribute as much or as little as you want, and you will get invited to a lot of the events that this organization organizes, mainly on the topics, on the themes that we want them to work on. So as I said, this was one of the first steps we took. We took as European Commission, and we took together with the European Parliament, and the objective was really to mobilize a large number of experts and stakeholders to work together with us as European Commission and define ways to support the uptake of blockchain technology. But it is not public sector exclusive. After the launch of the observatory, we started seeing a very strong interest also from the public sector, from member states, from governments, and from the subnational level, from the regions, from the local level, in saying, you know, can we start working together to overcome this fragmentation, to overcome the fact that I don't even know what my neighbor is doing in testing new blockchain applications, and I would be very interested to learn more about it. So in April this year, we've launched what we call the European Blockchain Partnership. And this partnership is really the result of a joint declaration that was signed by the European Commission together with 21 member states at the time, and we are now 27 member states plus Norway. So 28 countries really working together with the European Commission as part of this European blockchain partnership. And this blockchain partnership, according to the declaration, has two objectives. The first one is precisely to exchange information on the implementation of blockchain solutions for government services. Again, from the perspective of what have been your experiences, what's been the impact of that, have there been studies, and sharing that more broadly so that other countries and other public authorities can also start examining and projecting their own strategy for the uptake of blockchain technology. So that's one extremely important side of it, because just from the first meeting or from the first two meetings of this partnership, we suddenly realized that there were 3 or 4 countries already working in diplomas certification in Europe, and there was a strong interest from the education Directorate of the European Commission, because there are so many students that study across different universities in different countries, to actually work together and start looking at the potential project involving several European countries, but many other areas that we've identified could benefit from cooperation. So that was one of the big chunks, one of the first parts of the blockchain partnership. The other one, it's perhaps a little bit more technical but not less interesting, is that these 27 member states plus Norway and the European Commission have committed to developing what we call a secure, resilient European blockchain services infrastructure. And this European blockchain services infrastructure will be an infrastructure that will be developed to support cross-border digital public services in Europe. Okay, so a lot of the infrastructures and a lot of the things we've seen and we've talked about today have been mainly focused on delivery of public services in a particular country, or in some cases in a particular region. What we are building together with the member states is an infrastructure, it's a service infrastructure that can be used across different applications, but that will be focused on supporting the provision of cross-border digital public services, which, as you will imagine, is the main mandate of the European Commission. Okay. So before I get to this, and just to tell you how fast this work is progressing on the blockchain services infrastructure, the joint declaration that was signed by the member states and by the European Commission is very clear. Before the end of this year, we need to come back to the ministers who signed the declaration with 3 specific deliverables. Number 1, with the list of use cases, in other words, of cross-border digital public services at European level that will be deployed through this blockchain infrastructure. And that has to be agreed, and it's been discussed, and it has to be agreed before the end of this year. A second deliverable is a description of the functional specification of what this blockchain services infrastructure is going to look like. Okay, so that will characterize what the functions are and what technical specifications will underpin them. And the third thing, which is where we're really full-on working now with the member states, is defining what is the governance model for this future European blockchain services infrastructure. Who will develop it, who will maintain it, how will it operate, who will be responsible for it. So that will be the third piece that will be finalized before the end of this year, submitted to the ministers and to the heads of state and government that signed that declaration, and hopefully we can then move on to what we call the implementation phase of this service infrastructure sometime in early 2019. And what we want with the European blockchain services infrastructure, even though we haven't fully developed the functional specifications and the technical specifications, we know a little bit in broad terms what we will be looking for. We would be looking for something that is cyber resilient, that meets the highest cybersecurity standards, that it's interoperable, it's based on open source applications, it's scalable, that it has privacy by design, means it complies with privacy regulations at the European level. It's energy efficient. It uses some of the building blocks of European projects, notably on identification. The EIDAS regulation was mentioned before by the colleague from Sweden that was already being used in some of the applications. So this is, in a nutshell, what we would want to see in this future European blockchain services infrastructure. The more details, we're working them now, and they will be finalized before the end of this year. And as someone says, show me the money. We have some financing resources to support some of this work going forward. We have a significant share of investment that comes from research and innovation from our Horizon 2020 program, and that's really focused on the early development of blockchain technology and eventually on some piloting of some applications. But then we're preparing another fund called the Digital Europe program that would come in 2021 that will further boost the implementation of some of these blockchain initiatives. And there you have a total of 9.2 billion. They split according to many different headings, and blockchain is actually spread, some of the blockchain initiatives are actually spread across the 5 areas that you have there. So this is work in progress, but we're not in the business of signing joint political declarations just for signing them. We sign those declarations with the member states on the premise that there is a commitment also from our side and from the side of the member states to make significant investments in advancing the uptake of blockchain technology across public sector in Europe, and that's why we have this. So I hope I was succinct enough to keep you here despite lunch. I will leave you with just 3 things. For those of you who want to get more involved in the observatory, please feel free to reach out to me while we're having lunch. And if you're already there and you have any feedback, I'll be more than happy to hear that. Number 2, for the blockchain partnership, this is only for the Commission and the member states, the governments of the member states. But if you need to know who is your contact point, which is the ministry that is representing you in the blockchain partnership, I'd be happy to tell you that. As well. And number 3 is an initiative that I didn't mention here, but we're only just starting now, which is we've heard, not only in this conference, but over the last few months, about legal uncertainty. What are the regulatory obstacles for the uptake of blockchain technology? Is it to do with smart contracts recognition? Is it to do with something else? We've initiated an internal discussion within the European Commission and with the member states to really try and identify what are let's say, the legal or regulatory obstacles for people trying to deploy blockchain solutions. Any input that you have on that front will be very welcomed as well from me here, informally, by email, whenever you're ready. It's an assessment that we're carrying out now. We will probably open a formal consultation relatively soon on this, but we would like to have experts and those of you who are involved in it also providing us this input. And that's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Thanks for staying there despite lunch outside, and enjoy your lunch.